The air inside the cave tasted like metal and time. Zara stood among the dead as she had for 217 years. The tombs stretched around her in every direction, stone sarcophagi arranged in perfect rows, each one carved with names she could still recite from memory, each one holding someone she had failed to save. The bioluminescent fungi covering the walls pulsed with their slow blue rhythm. She had watched those same patterns for over 2 centuries, counted every pulse, every flicker, every moment of endless, crushing silence. Her reflection stared back from the polished surface of the nearest tomb, pale skin that hadn't seen real sunlight in generations, hair the color of fresh blood falling past her shoulders, curved black horns rising from her temples. And the markings, always the markings, black tendrils spread across her skin like living ink. They traced patterns down her arms, across her collarbone, disappearing beneath the minimal dark fabric she wore. The symbiote, her people's greatest achievement and their ultimate curse. Over 2 centuries of watching those patterns spread, meditation, suppression, denying herself everything that made life worth living. Because any emotion, any connection, any feeling at all made the organism inside her stronger, made it spread faster toward the inevitable end. The day the markings reached her brain, Zara would cease to exist. What remained would be pure instinct, pure hunger, a monster wearing her face. So she stood, and she waited, and she existed in the tomb with her people, neither fully alive nor mercifully dead. The scanner's ping echoed through the chamber. Zara's head snapped toward the entrance. The sound was impossible. No one came here. The mass extinction had wiped Valthara clean 3 centuries ago. The planet was a graveyard, monitored by automated beacons that screamed warnings to stay away. Yet someone was coming. Footsteps, measured, careful, growing closer with each heartbeat. Her hand moved to the blade at her thigh, fingers wrapping around the hilt with practiced ease. The symbiote responded to her spike of adrenaline, markings pulsing darker across her skin. Control it, suppress it. She forced her breathing to slow, pushed down the rising tension. The organism fed on stress, on fear, on any strong emotion. She couldn't afford to feel anything. A figure appeared in the tomb entrance. Human, male, older, perhaps 65 or 70 in their years. He wore practical field gear, a scanner in one hand, equipment pack across his shoulders, gray hair cut military short, weathered face that had seen its share of harsh environments. He moved with the careful economy of someone who had spent a lifetime in dangerous places. His scanner swept across the chamber. Then his eyes found her. Zara waited for the inevitable, the moment of recognition, the terror flooding across his face, the scramble backward, the screaming as he fled. It always happened. Every few decades, someone found the tomb. Archaeologists, treasure hunters, corporate scouts. They all saw her standing among the dead, and they all ran. Some made it out of the caves, some didn't. But this human did neither. He studied her for a long moment. His expression showed surprise, yes. Curiosity, certainly. But not fear, not the primal terror that sent others fleeing. Well, he said, his voice carrying the rough edge of someone who had spent years shouting orders over gunfire. The energy readings didn't mention you'd be standing. Zara's grip tightened on her blade. You should run. Should I? He took 3 steps into the chamber. His scanner beeped softly, analyzing. Why's that? Because every other living thing that has found this place has fled screaming. The words came out harder than she intended. Centuries of isolation had not improved her social graces. The human's eyebrow lifted slightly. Every other living thing wasn't human. He crossed half the remaining distance between them, movements unhurried. Spent 4 decades in military medicine, enlisted at 18, retired as major at 58, patched up soldiers from Desert Storm through the Middle East campaigns, horns and red eyes. He paused, meeting her gaze directly. Ma'am, I've seen worse. The casualness in his tone made something twist in Zara's chest. Surprise, perhaps, or hope, which was far more dangerous. You don't understand what I am. Then explain it to me. He stopped 10 feet away, giving her space. His eyes traveled over her frame, not with the hungry assessment of someone who saw a specimen to be captured, not with the fear of someone confronting a monster. He looked at her the way she remembered the old Cathari healers examining patients. Clinical, searching for symptoms to understand. Zara's jaw tightened. She hadn't spoken to anyone in decades. The last visitors had been 32 years ago. A corporate survey team who had screamed at the sight of her and triggered their emergency beacon. She had let them run, watched their ship flee the system, then returned to her vigil among the dead. But this human stood his ground, waited, expected an answer. "My name is Zara," she said finally, "last guardian of the Tomb of Houses, the last of the Cathari, and you are trespassing on sacred ground." Garrison Thorne. He touched two fingers to his forehead in what might have been a salute. "And I apologize for the intrusion, but I've spent 5 years studying your people. Archaeological surveys, cultural databases, everything humanity's collected about the Cathari. I've wanted to understand what happened here. Who you were." He paused. "Who you are." The past tense hit harder than expected. "The Cathari are extinct." "Are they?" His scanner hummed, displaying biological readings. "My equipment says otherwise." Something flickered through Zara, an emotion she couldn't quite suppress. Pain, perhaps, or the memory of pain, which after such prolonged isolation felt much the same. "I am all that remains," she said, "one guardian among 10,000 dead, and you should fear me." "You keep saying that," Garrison's voice remained steady, "but you haven't attacked, haven't threatened. You're just standing there telling me to be afraid." He took another step closer. "So no, I don't think I will be." "You should." "Why?" The question was genuine, curious. "Because of those markings?" Zara's hand lifted involuntarily to her shoulder, fingers tracing the black patterns that spread across her pale skin. "Do you know what these mean?" "No." Garrison moved closer still, 5 feet away now, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Human warmth, real heat, not the cold stone that had been her only companion for so long. "But I'd like to learn." For more than 200 years, Zara had maintained perfect control. She had meditated, suppressed, denied herself any emotional response that might feed the symbiote growing inside her. She had become a statue among statues, a ghost haunting her own tomb. But standing this close to another living being, feeling warmth, hearing genuine interest in another voice, something cracked in her carefully constructed walls. "My people created an enhancement," she heard herself say, "a symbiotic organism that gave us strength, speed, healing beyond our natural capabilities. It made the Cathari into perfect warriors, perfect guardians." Her fingers traced the markings down her arm. "But it came with a price." Garrison's eyes followed the pattern, studying it with professional focus. "The organism spreads through the body," Zara continued, "slowly consuming its host. These markings aren't decoration, they're infection. Every centimeter represents how much of me the symbiote has claimed." She saw understanding dawn in his expression, the way he looked at the concentration of markings near her heart, spreading outward in creeping tendrils. The medical professional in him analyzing symptoms, prognosis, progression. "Your people died from it," he said quietly. "They died trying to remove it." Zara's voice carried the weight of watching it happen. Over and over, friend after friend. The process killed them faster than the organism would have. They chose to fight, and fighting destroyed them. She met his eyes. "I'm the last because I chose to let it fast rather than kill myself fighting it." "How long have you been here?" "Since the extinction event." The number still felt impossible. "I've been slowing its progress through meditation, through willpower, through absolute isolation from anything that might trigger emotional responses that feed it." Garrison's gaze sharpened. "What feeds it?" "Adrenaline, fear, anger." She paused, feeling the markings pulse with darker intensity as heat rose in her chest. "Desire." The word hung between them. Zara saw him process it, saw the moment he understood why she stood alone in a tomb, why she had spent such an unfathomable span allowing herself nothing, feeling nothing, existing in a state between life and death. "That's not survival," Garrison said. "That's slow execution. It's the only way." But even as she said it, she felt the lie. The markings on her arms had darkened visibly in the last few minutes, just from talking to him, just from proximity to another living being who didn't run in terror. Garrison's hand lifted slowly, deliberately, giving her every chance to pull away or strike out. His fingers stopped inches from her face. May I? Zara should have said no, should have stepped back, should have done anything except nod. His fingers touched her cheek. The sensation hit like lightning. Warmth. Real, human warmth against skin that had known only cold stone for generations. His touch was gentle, careful, the touch of someone who knew how to handle wounded things. Zara inhaled sharply, her whole body going rigid. The symbiote responded immediately. Markings pulsed with sudden intensity. She could feel it waking, spreading, seeking more of whatever chemical reaction this contact triggered. But Garrison didn't pull away. His thumb traced along her jawline, calloused fingers rough but somehow perfect against her skin. "You're cold," he said quietly. "When's the last time you felt warmth?" The question broke something inside her. Zara's eyes closed briefly. More than 200 years. When she opened them again, she found him watching her with an expression that made her chest ache. Compassion. Understanding. Not pity. Never pity. Something deeper. "That's over now," Garrison said. His hand stayed against her face, thumb still moving in small circles. "Your isolation. It's over. You don't understand what you're offering." But Zara didn't pull away, couldn't pull away. The warmth was addictive. The human contact was everything she had denied herself. "Then explain it. Just standing near you, talking to you, having you touch me." She could barely force the words out. The symbiote is more active now than it's been in decades. He could see it too, the markings spreading visibly across her skin, fresh tendrils creeping along her shoulders, down her arms, real-time progression that would have taken years before. "Then I should go," Garrison said. Yes. He didn't move. Neither did she. The moment stretched between them. Zara could feel herself fighting something internal. The war that had defined her existence. Survival instinct demanding she push him away before the symbiote consumed her. But another part, starved and desperate, begged her to stay close, to feel warmth just a little longer. Garrison's other hand came up, cupping her face with both palms now. His eyes searched hers. "I'm not running," he said, "and I'm not afraid of you." The words should have been foolish, but they felt like salvation. Then the explosion echoed from the surface. Both of them froze. The sound was distant, but unmistakable. Weapons-grade ordnance, followed by the sharp crack of energy weapons firing. "What was that?" Zara demanded. Garrison pulled up his communicator, tapping controls. Only static answered. His jaw tightened. "My team. Someone's attacking them." Another explosion, closer now. The sounds of combat filtering down through the cave system. Mercenaries. Zara's combat instincts took over instantly. Her whole demeanor shifted, warrior training reasserting itself. "They've found me." "Found you?" Garrison looked from his dead communicator to her face. "Every few decades, someone comes looking." She moved to a hidden panel in the wall, pressing her palm against it. Stone ground against stone as a cache opened, revealing weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Hoping to extract the symbiote for weaponization, to summon Bayan, to sell it, to auction it to the highest bidder. She grabbed a rifle-like device, checking its charge with practiced efficiency, then tossed a second weapon to Garrison. He caught it smoothly, hands finding the controls with the muscle memory of someone who'd held weapons before. "Your team is dead or captured," Zara said, already moving toward the back of the chamber where hidden passages led deeper into the cave system. "Unless you want to join them, you need to come with me." The weapons fire grew louder, multiple teams moving fast. Professional? Coordinated. These weren't amateurs stumbling into the tomb. "There are passages they won't know about," Zara continued. "Escape routes the Guardians built. We can reach the surface through the old temple sections." She glanced back, found Garrison standing at the crossroads, looking at the tomb entrance where his team was fighting or dying, looking at her, offering escape into darkness. This was the moment, the choice. He could try to reach his people, try to save them, probably die in the attempt, or he could follow her into the unknown. Garrison looked at her for one long heartbeat, then he checked the weapon's charge and nodded. Let's move. Something in Zara's chest loosened. She turned and ran, hearing his footsteps behind her. They plunged into the hidden passage, leaving the tomb chamber and its centuries-long vigil behind. The darkness swallowed them both. Zara moved through the tunnels like water flowing downhill. Every twist, every turn, every hidden junction was mapped in her memory. She had walked these passages for more than 200 years, knew them better than she knew her own face. Behind her, Garrison kept pace. Not smoothly, not with her inhuman grace, but he didn't slow her down, didn't complain. Just followed, weapon ready, breathing controlled despite the exertion. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them. Harsh commands in corporate military shorthand. The scrape of boots on stone. They were being hunted by professionals. Zara stopped at a junction, her hands shooting out to press Garrison against the wall. Her body aligned with his, cold skin against the warmth radiating through his field gear. Her breath came quick against his neck. "Quiet," she whispered. Footsteps approached from the left passage. Heavy, armored. At least 4 soldiers moving in tactical formation. Zara's fingers found Garrison's, guiding his hand to a depression in the wall. She pressed their joined hands into it. Stone shifted silently, revealing a gap barely wide enough for one person. She pulled him into the hidden passage as soldiers passed mere feet away. Their helmet lights swept across the junction, searching, finding nothing. The space was tight. Zara moved ahead through the narrow corridor, her body brushing against Garrison's repeatedly as they navigated the twisting path. Each contact felt electric. Each touch sent the symbiote pulsing with darker intensity. She could feel it spreading, faster than before. The combination of adrenaline from danger and the proximity to Garrison was accelerating the progression beyond anything meditation could suppress. But she couldn't think about that now. Survival first, control later. The passage opened into a smaller chamber, one of the ancient supply caches, built when the Cathari still believed they had a future. Sealed containers lined the walls, contents preserved by technology that had outlasted its creators. A spring bubbled in the corner, feeding a pool that drained through cracks in the floor. "We rest here," Zara said, moving to the pool. She drank deeply, the water cold and perfect. Garrison joined her, cupping water in his hands. When he looked up, she was watching him with those burning, crimson eyes. "Tell me about the mercenaries," he said. "How did they know you were here?" Zara settled onto a smooth stone, her weapon across her lap. They didn't, not specifically. They knew the Cathari developed the symbiote. They knew one guardian survived. Every few decades, someone comes searching, looking for what's inside me, to weaponize it, to sell it. Do you understand what an organism like this is worth? She held up her arm. The black markings were stark against her pale skin, pulsing with their own rhythm now. Perfect warriors. Soldiers who heal from any wound, who never tire, who grow stronger the more they fight. Every military power in the galaxy would pay fortunes for this. Her voice carried bitter knowledge. Except it kills the host eventually. But corporations don't care about that, Garrison said quietly. They just breed more hosts, more soldiers, more weapons. Exactly. Zara's hand tightened on her weapon. I've spent over 2 centuries hiding, protecting this secret, because I've seen what my people became when the symbiote took full control. I've watched friends transform into monsters. I won't let that happen to others. Garrison moved closer, settling beside her on the stone. Their shoulders touched. How have you survived this long? Learned to coexist with it. Her fingers traced the markings on her arm, to suppress it through meditation, through controlling my emotions, through denying myself anything that might feed its growth. What feeds it, he asked, though she suspected he already knew. Adrenaline, fear, anger. She turned to look at him. Desire. The word carried weight. Memory of his touch on her face, the warmth that had awakened something she thought dead. That's why you've been alone, Garrison said. It wasn't a question. Any emotional connection would accelerate the spread. Any attachment. Any feeling beyond bare survival. Zara's voice dropped lower. I've spent centuries allowing myself nothing. Feeling nothing. Just existing with my dead. It was the only way. That's not survival. Garrison shifted to face her fully. That's slow death. What would you have me do? The question came out sharper than intended. Give in? Become the monster everyone thinks I am? No. His hand found hers, warm fingers wrapping around her cold ones. I'd have you live. Actually live. You don't understand what you're asking. Then show me. Zara stared at him. Over 200 years of isolation, of meditation, of absolute control, all of it warring against the simple human warmth of his touch. She reached out slowly, took his hand and pressed it against her chest just below her collarbone. Her heartbeat pulsed beneath his palm, slow, cold, and he could feel the markings pulsing in rhythm with it. Feel that? Her voice was barely a whisper. That's the symbiote waiting. When you touched me earlier, when we stood close, I could feel it respond. The markings spread just from proximity to you. She kept his hand pressed there. From wanting. Garrison's fingers flexed against her skin. From wanting what? Don't. From wanting what, Zara? Her eyes closed. The war inside her was visible in every line of her face. Centuries of denial cracking under the simple question. From wanting you to touch me again, she finally said. From wanting to feel warmth. From wanting to be close to something that doesn't fear me. She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. It doesn't matter. We can't. Look at me. She did, and she saw no fear, no hesitation, just steady determination and something that might have been understanding. I know the risks, Garrison said. I understand what you are, and I'm still here. Then he kissed her. Zara went completely still for one heartbeat. Then she made a sound between a gasp and a tune and kissed him back, and with centuries of starvation behind it. Her hands fisted in his field gear, pulling him closer. Her body pressed against his, seeking warmth like a drowning person seeks air. His mouth was warm, human warm. He tasted like water and something she couldn't name, something alien and addictive. Garrison's hand slid into her hair, careful of her horns, and she shuddered against him. The sensation was overwhelming. Too much, not enough. Everything she had denied herself for so long crashing over her in waves. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, the markings on her arms had darkened significantly. New tendrils spreading visibly across her skin, racing toward her shoulders. Zara saw them. Horror flickered across her face. It's spreading because of you. Then we figure it out. His hands stayed on her face, side by side. Before she could respond, weapons fire cut through the chamber. Not close, but closer than before. Zara grabbed her weapon, combat instincts overriding everything else. They found the hidden passages. How? Thermal scanners, or they captured someone who knows the layout. She moved to the far wall, searching for the trigger. We need to move. Up to the surface, your ship. If we can reach it, we might have a chance. Eastern Plateau, Garrison confirmed. Smallest research vessel. Then that's our target. Zara triggered another hidden door. Stone ground open, revealing a passage that angled sharply upward. She glanced back at him, and something in her expression had changed. The resignation was gone. Something fiercer had replaced it. Stay close, she said. If they corner us, I'll have to fight. And if I fight, the symbiote gets stronger, faster, more aggressive. Her jaw tightened. If it takes over completely, you run, understand? Garrison picked up his weapon. I'm not running from you. Stubborn human, she muttered. Terrifying alien, he replied. Despite everything, the danger, the spreading markings, the mercenaries hunting them, Zara felt her mouth curve, just slightly, the ghost of a smile she hadn't felt in ages. Then she led him into the passage toward the surface, toward whatever waited above. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Zara wasn't facing it alone. The passage angled upward sharply, forcing them to climb using handholds carved into stone. Zara moved with inhuman grace, her enhanced strength making the ascent look effortless. Behind her, she could hear Garrison climbing steadily, his breathing controlled despite the exertion. She paused occasionally to let him catch up, found herself watching him in those moments. The way his weathered hands found holds with practiced efficiency, the focused expression on his face, the determination that kept him moving even as his muscles burned. He looked up, caught her watching, and flashed a quick grin before continuing in the climb. Something warm flickered in Zara's chest, something dangerous and wonderful and absolutely catastrophic for her careful control. They emerged into what had once been a grand temple. The ceiling had collapsed centuries ago, leaving the space open to Valthara's night sky. Moonlight spilled through the Po opening, casting everything in silver. The ruins of the Cathari civilization stretched in all directions, crumbling spires, shattered domes, a people reduced to ghosts and memories. Zara stood among the rubble of her world and felt the weight of it. Every broken stone, every empty building, every life lost, all of it preserved in the terrible permanence of extinction. There, Garrison's voice pulled her back. He pointed to the eastern plateau where his ship sat like a dark insect against the stars. 2 kilometers, exposed ground. Zara scanned the ruins with predator focus. Her enhanced vision picked out movement, shadows that didn't belong. They'll have scouts positioned. We can't go around, not fast enough. They'll cut us off. So we go through, fast and quiet until we can't be. She adjusted her grip on the weapon. Then we fight. They moved into the ruins, using the broken buildings for cover. Zara led, her senses stretched to their limit. Every shadow, every sound, every shift in the air. The symbiote enhanced her awareness, made her hyper-alert to danger. Behind her, Garrison moved with surprising stealth for someone who hadn't spent centuries hunting through ruins. Military training, she realized. He knew how to move quietly, how to use cover, how to be patient. The first scout never saw them coming. Zara moved like liquid death, closing the distance in 3 silent strides. Her hand clamped over his mouth as her blade found his throat. She lowered the body without a sound, then motioned Garrison forward. They made it another 100 meters before the alarm went up. Lights blazed across the ruins, harsh, blinding. Voices shouted coordinates. Then weapons fire erupted from 3 positions, plasma bolts chewing into stone around them. Run! Zara shoved Garrison behind a collapsed wall, then returned fire with calculated bursts. Her shots found targets with impossible accuracy. 3 soldiers dropped in as many seconds. Garrison fired at movement, covering their retreat as they sprinted through the ruins. His weapon kicked against his shoulder. The alien technology responded to his intent more than his aim, compensating for his human limitations. A soldier appeared in a doorway. Garrison squeezed the trigger. Watch the man fall. Zara grabbed his arm, yanking him into a narrow alley between 2 buildings. They're hurting us. Toward what? Probably their commander. Her jaw tightened. The markings on her neck had spread higher, creeping toward her jaw like black veins. He'll want to see me before they take me. Verify I'm worth the cost. We can circle back. No time. She checked her weapon's charge, then looked at him. Something shifted in her expression. Vulnerability breaking through the warrior mask. When the fighting starts, really starts, stay behind me. Don't try to help, just survive. Zara, promise me. Before he could answer, a voice echoed across the ruins, amplified by speakers, cold, professional, absolutely certain of its authority. Last guardian of the Cathari, I am Commander Silas Cade of the Apex Corporation's Security Division. Surrender yourself and the human lives. Resist and everyone dies. Zara's fingers flexed on her weapon. Apex. They've been hunting me for 30 years. We can fight our way through, Garrison said. Not without me losing control. She turned to him, and for the first time since they'd met, he saw real fear in her crimson gaze. The combat, the adrenaline, it's already spreading faster. She touched her neck where new markings had appeared. If I unleash it fully, I might not come back. Garrison grabbed her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Then I'll bring you back, like before. This is different. In that chamber, it was just a kiss. This will be, she stopped, swallowing hard. This will be everything the symbiote feeds on. Violence, rage, survival instinct at its rawest. It will consume me. No, it won't. He kissed her, hard, tasting her sharp intake of breath. Because I'm not letting you go. You understand? Fight however you need to fight. Use whatever you have to use. I'll be right there, and I will bring you back. You can't. Soldiers emerged from the ruins. 10, 15, 20. Too many. They formed a loose perimeter, weapons trained on the alley. Silas Cade stepped through their ranks. Tall, cold eyes, colder smile. He looked at Zara the way someone might look at a particularly valuable piece of equipment. "Last chance, Guardian," he said. "Come quietly or die loudly." Zara stepped out of the alley. Garrison's breath caught. The markings had spread across her entire upper body now. Black tendrils writhing across her pale skin like living tattoos. Her scarlet eyes blazed brighter, almost painful to look at directly. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. Deeper, other, the symbiote making itself known. "You want me, Cade?" The words were a challenge, a promise. "Come take me." Then she moved. One moment she was standing still. The next she was among them, moving too fast for Garrison's eyes to follow. Her blade flashed. Her weapon fired. Bodies fell. She was a storm given form. Death wearing beauty's face. Every movement perfectly lethal. Every strike absolutely precise. The symbiote had enhanced her beyond human limits, made her into exactly what the Cathari had intended. The perfect warrior. A soldier aimed at her back. Garrison fired, dropping him. Another came from the left. Garrison's shot took him in the chest. Zara spun, her blade opening throats. Her weapon punching holes through armor that should have been impenetrable. The markings spread visibly now, racing across her skin in real time, covering her shoulders, creeping down her arms. Her movements became even faster, more violent, more savage. Cade fired. His shot caught her in the shoulder. She barely flinched. The wound sealed itself in seconds. Black tendrils knitting flesh back together, the symbiote repairing damage faster than it could accumulate. "Magnificent," Cade breathed. Zara closed on him. He drew a blade, meeting her attack. They moved in a deadly dance, steel ringing against steel. He was skilled, trained, experienced, but she was something more. The longer they fought, the more the markings spread. They covered her neck now, reaching toward her face. Her eyes blazed brighter. Her movements became less controlled, more primal. She was losing herself to it. "Zara!" Garrison shouted. She didn't respond. Her blade found Cade's throat. She stood over his body, chest heaving, every inch of exposed skin now covered in writhing black patterns. The remaining soldiers backed away. Terror replaced training on their faces. Zara turned toward them. Garrison saw nothing human in her eyes, nothing that recognized him. Just hunger. Just instinct. She raised her weapon. "Zara, stop!" Garrison ran to her, dropped his weapon, put himself between her and the fleeing soldiers. Her burning gaze focused on him. Predator studying prey. "It's me," he said, reaching for her face. "It's Garrison. Come back." She bared her teeth. Not quite a snarl, not quite human. He kissed her anyway. She went rigid. Her weapon clattered to the ground. For a moment she stood frozen, caught between the monster and the woman. Then her hands came up, gripping his arms hard enough to bruise. And she kissed him back with desperate ferocity. Not the controlled passion from before. This was raw, primal. Centuries of denied emotion pouring through the cracks in her walls. When they broke apart, her eyes had cleared slightly. Recognition flickered in their depths. "Garrison," she whispered. Her voice was her own again. Shaking, frightened. But you didn't." He kept his hands on her face, grounding her, anchoring her. "You came back." She looked down at herself, at the markings covering every visible inch of skin. They pulsed with dark intensity, spreading even as she watched. "It's too much. It's everywhere. I can feel it winning." "Then we get to my ship. Now we get help." "There is no help. My people tried for decades." "Your people weren't human." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the plateau. "Come on, we're leaving, as partners, and we're going to figure this out." For a moment, she just stared at him. Then something like hope flickered across her face. Fragile, new, terrifying in its vulnerability. "Partners," she repeated. They ran. The ship's ramp lowered with a pneumatic hiss as they approached, revealing the cramped interior of Garrison's research vessel. He pulled Zara inside, sealing the hatch behind them as plasma fire scorched the hull. The remaining mercenaries had regrouped, firing from the ruins, trying to prevent their escape. Strap in! Garrison threw himself into the pilot's seat. Zara slid into the co-pilot position. Her fingers found the harness with fumbling movements. The markings covered her completely now. Face, neck, arms, every visible surface wrapped in black patterns that pulsed with increasing urgency. Her hands trembled as she secured the restraints. The engines roared to life. Garrison pulled back on the controls. The ship lurched skyward, leaving Valthara's surface behind. Leaving the tomb, leaving centuries of isolation falling away below them. Warning lights flashed across the console. Damage to the rear shields. Minor hull breaches. Power fluctuations. "We're not going to make it, Firemar," Zara said. Her voice sounded distant, strained. "They'll have ships in orbit. Then we'll deal with them." Garrison punched in coordinates for the nearest human outpost. 3 days away at maximum speed. "How are you holding up?" Zara held up her hands. Watch the patterns writhe across her skin. "I can feel it inside me, trying to spread further. There's nowhere left for it to go except deeper." She looked at him. "Into my organs, my brain." Her scarlet eyes met his. "When it reaches my brain, I won't be me anymore. I'll be all instinct, all hunger. Just the monster everyone always thought I was." "How long?" "Hours, maybe less." She laughed. The sound was bitter and broken. "Centuries of fighting, and I lose it all in one night. Because of you. Because you chose to fight instead of hide." "Same thing." But her expression softened. "Though I suppose if I'm going to lose myself, at least I got to feel something real first." She touched his arm. That kiss, that touch, over 200 years of nothing. And then you. Garrison reached across the console, took her hand. Her skin was still cold, but not as cold as before. The markings pulsed under his fingers. "You're not losing yourself," he said. "We're going to—" The proximity alarm screamed. 3 ships dropped out of stealth, surrounding them. Military-grade interceptors, Apex Corporation markings, stark against their hulls. The comm crackled to life. "Research vessel, this is Apex Command. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with lethal force." Garrison killed the comm. His mind raced through options. They were outgunned, outmaneuvered. In a ship designed for archaeological surveys, not combat, the interceptors moved into formation, weapons locked. "I can help," Zara said quietly. "What?" "This ship, it's human design, but the principles are universal." She leaned forward, her fingers moving across the secondary console with sudden confidence. "My people were warriors and engineers both. I know ship systems. I know tactics, and right now I still have enough control to use that knowledge." "Zara, let me do this." She looked at him. Despite the markings covering her face, despite the burning eyes blazing with inhuman intensity, he saw clarity there. Purpose. "Well, let me save us, please. Let me be useful one last time before I lose myself." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she'd be fine, that they'd figure something out. But the interceptors were closing, and time was bleeding away. "What do you need me to do?" Her fingers flew across the controls, bringing up systems he didn't even know the ship had. "When I say overload the forward shields and redirect all power to engines, it'll leave us exposed for 3 seconds. But if my calculations are right, we'll have enough acceleration to punch through their formation before they can compensate. And if your calculations are wrong," she flashed him a smile, all teeth, all defiance, all the warrior she had been for centuries, "then we die as partners instead of alone. I can think of worse endings." The late interceptor fired a warning shot across their bow. "Now," Zara commanded. Garrison slammed the power transfer. The ship shuddered as shields collapsed and engines screamed to life. They shot forward, acceleration crushing them back into their seats. The interceptors scattered, trying to track their sudden movement. "Left 30 degrees, Zara called out. He obeyed. The ship twisted, narrowly avoiding a plasma barrage. "Down! Full burn!" They dropped. Valthera's gravity well caught them, pulling them into a steep dive. One interceptor followed, firing. Zara's fingers danced across the weapons console. The survey ship's mining laser, never meant for combat, sliced across space and caught the pursuer's engine. The interceptor spiraled away, trailing fire. Up! Garrison yanked back on the controls. The ship groaned under the stress. They shot back toward space, leaving the remaining interceptors behind as the engines pushed past safety limits. Jump coordinates locked, Zara said. Her voice carried satisfaction despite everything. 30 seconds until we can engage. The console showed the interceptors regrouping, moving to cut off their escape vector. 20 seconds. Warning lights flashed. Weapons locked onto their hull. 15. They're firing, Garrison said. I know. Zara's hands gripped the console, knuckles white beneath the black markings. Hold course. 10 seconds. The plasma bolts screamed toward them. 5. Zara, now. The universe stretched and snapped. Stars blurred into lines as they jumped, leaving the interceptors and their weapons fire light years behind. The ship shuddered. Systems whined, but held together. They'd made it. Garrison let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. Glanced at Zara. She slumped in her seat, exhausted. The markings on her face pulsed rapidly, spreading even as he watched. That was incredible, he said. That was desperation. She looked at her hands. The patterns writhed faster now. And it cost me. The stress, the focus, the tactical thinking. All of it fed the symbiote. I can feel it spreading deeper. She met his eyes. I don't have much time left. Garrison unbuckled his harness, moved to kneel beside her seat. His hands found her face, tilting her head to meet his gaze. Then we make the time count. Garrison, I'm dangerous. The more I lose control, you just saved both our lives. You're not losing control, you're adapting. He traced the markings on her cheek with his thumb. Every time you think you're going to lose yourself, something brings you back. That kiss in the cave, in the ruins. Maybe that's the answer. What answer? Connection, not isolation. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. You spent over 2 centuries alone, starving yourself of everything that makes life worth living. Maybe that's not how you fight this. Maybe you fight it by living. By living, she repeated. Her voice was barely a whisper. By living, he confirmed. Then he kissed her, soft and slow, and felt her melt into it. Her hands came up to grip his shoulders, not desperate this time, but searching, savoring, like someone tasting water after crossing a desert. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he noticed the markings on her face had stopped pulsing so frantically. It's calmer, she said. Wonder colored her voice. When you touch me, when we're close like this, it calms down. She looked at him. How is that possible? I don't know, but we're going to find out. He pulled her to her feet, leading her toward the small medical bay at the ship's rear. Come on, let me run some scans. See if we can figure out what's happening. She followed, her hand tight in his. And for the first time since Garrison Thorne walked into that tomb, Zara allowed herself to hope. Maybe, impossibly, they'd find a way through this, as partners. The medical bay was barely larger than a closet, designed for basic field treatment rather than xenobiological research. But Garrison had modified it extensively during his 5 years of archaeological work. Extra scanners, enhanced diagnostic equipment, the tools of someone who had spent 4 decades learning how bodies worked and how to fix them when they broke. Zara perched on the examination table, watching him with those burning eyes as he pulled up the scanner interface. The markings covered every visible inch of her skin now. Face, neck, arms, hands. Writhing black patterns that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. This might feel strange, Garrison said, running the scanner along her arm. The device hummed, projecting a 3-dimensional holographic image of her internal structure. What he saw made his breath catch. The symbiote wasn't just on her skin. It threaded through her entire body, wrapped around organs, integrated with her nervous system. Black tendrils pulsed in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat, so deeply merged with her biology that separating them would mean killing her. He had seen a lot of wounds in 40 years, a lot of damage, a lot of cases where the cure would be worse than the disease. This was beyond anything in his experience. It's worse than I thought, Zara said quietly, reading his expression. It's not worse. Garrison adjusted the scanner settings, focusing on her cardiovascular system. It's complete. You and the symbiote aren't 2 separate things anymore. You're one organism, an organism that's consuming me, or one that's evolving. He pulled up a comparison scan from the ship's database. Baseline Cathari physiology from archaeological records. Look, your heart rate, your neural activity, even your cellular regeneration. Everything's enhanced beyond normal Cathari parameters. He set down the scanner, moving to stand between her knees. His hands settled on her thighs, feeling the cool skin beneath the black markings. The symbiote isn't killing you, it's transforming you. Into what? I don't know yet. His thumbs traced small circles against her skin. But I think what happened earlier, when you calmed down after we kissed, I think physical contact affects it somehow. You're basing this on limited data. Then let's gather more. He leaned in, his lips finding the curve of her neck just below her jaw. She inhaled sharply, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders. Watch the monitor, he murmured against her skin. The holographic display showed her physiology in real time. As his mouth moved along her throat, as his hands slid up her sides, the symbiote's activity changed. The frantic pulsing slowed. The black tendrils in her bloodstream moved less erratically. The overall pattern shifted from chaotic expansion towards something that looked almost like homeostasis. It's responding, Zara breathed. To you. To this. Garrison pulled back to look at her. His hands framed her face, thumbs tracing the markings on her cheekbones. Your people tried to fight it with isolation, with suppression. What if that's exactly wrong? What if the symbiote needs emotional input to stabilize? That makes no sense. Emotion feeds it. Adrenaline makes it spread. Negative emotion, fear, anger, combat stress. His thumb traced the marking that curved along her jaw. But this, what we're doing right now, this is different. Look at the readings. She turned to study the display. He watched understanding dawn across her features. The symbiote's integration patterns had shifted dramatically. Where before it showed aggressive expansion, now it displayed something closer to equilibrium. Still present, still active, but controlled. It's seeking balance, she said slowly. The organism isn't trying to consume me. It's trying to balance with me. Exactly. Garrison's hand slid into her hair, careful of her horns. But centuries of emotional starvation gave it nothing to balance against except survival instinct, fear, isolation, the baseline hormones of someone just trying to exist. So it kept spreading, kept searching for something it couldn't find. Zara looked at him, her crimson eyes wide. And when you showed up, I provided what it was looking for. Human biochemistry, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, the neurochemicals produced during bonding. He pulled her closer. The symbiote isn't your enemy, Zara. It's been trying to help you survive. But it needed something you couldn't give it alone. She stared at him, then she kissed him. Deep and fierce and full of centuries of hunger channeled into something focused and intense. Her legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him against her. The thin fabric between them felt like an unbearable barrier. Her hands worked at the fastenings of his field gear with enhanced speed. He helped her, fingers finding clasps and seals. And then her skin was bare under his hands. The markings covered every inch of her. Shoulders, breast, stomach, thighs. Writhing patterns that pulsed with each racing heartbeat. She was otherworldly yet achingly known. Cool skin warming where he touched. Scarlet eyes blazing as she pulled at his clothes with the same desperate urgency. When they came together, it was fierce and consuming. Centuries of isolation shattering against human warmth. She moved with inhuman grace and strength, but her gasps were achingly vulnerable. So what? I need extraordinary experiences to keep the symbiote controlled? That's the solution my people spent decades searching for? Not extraordinary experiences. Garrison pulled her closer, feeling her cool body warming against his. Connection. Human biochemistry might be part of it. We produce neurochemicals your species might not have. When we're intimate, when there's emotional and physical bonding, those chemicals transfer through contact. The symbiote responds to them. So I need a human. She said it clinically, but he heard the vulnerability beneath. You need me, he corrected. Specifically, Because it's not just the biochemistry, it's the connection we've built. The trust, he hesitated. The what? He met her eyes, saw the question there. The hope, the fear. Whatever this is between us, he said carefully, it started the moment I walked into that tomb. I don't believe in fate, Zara, but I believe in this, in us. She was quiet for a long moment. Her fingers traced patterns on his chest, following old scars from his military days. Finally, she spoke. Over 2 centuries, I survived alone, and then you walked in and changed everything in a single day. Regrets? Not one. She kissed him, soft and lingering. Though my people would be horrified to know their great guardian's secret to survival boils down to falling for a human. The word hung between them. Too large, too true, too terrifying to examine too closely. Is that what this is? Garrison asked quietly. I don't know what else to call it. She sat up, the markings on her skin still visible but calmer now, almost decorative rather than threatening. I've been alone so long I forgot what it felt like to want someone's presence, to crave their touch, to feel safe. Her burning gaze found his. You make me feel safe, Garrison Thorne, even with a monster living inside me. You're not a monster. He pulled her back down beside him. You never were. You're just someone who needed to stop fighting alone. They lay in comfortable silence as the ship traveled through hyperspace. The medical readouts showed stable vitals, controlled symbiote integration, and something that looked remarkably like a healthy alien-human bond. What happens now? Zara asked eventually. Now we get you to human medical facilities. We document this. We figure out if other humans can have the same effect, or if it's just us. He paused. And we make sure no corporation ever gets their hands on you or your symbiote. They'll keep trying. Apex won't stop. Then we'll keep fighting. He kissed her temple. As partners. Partners, she repeated. And this time the words sounded like a promise. The ship's computer chimed, announcing their approach to the human outpost. Garrison sat up reluctantly, helping Zara dress before moving to the cockpit. She followed, settling into the co-pilot seat with easy familiarity. The outpost appeared on their screens. A modest station orbiting a gas giant, home to maybe 300 humans conducting deep space research. Not military, not corporate, just scientists trying to understand the universe. Think they'll accept me? Zara asked, watching the station grow larger. They're scientists. They'll be fascinated. Garrison reached across to take her hand. And anyone who has a problem with you then will answer to me. She squeezed his fingers, then released them to help with the docking procedures. Her knowledge of ship systems combined with his piloting brought them smoothly into the station's bay. As the airlock cycled, Zara stood and turned to him. The markings still covered her skin, her horns still curved from her temples, her eyes still burned crimson. She looked exactly like what she was. Alien, dangerous, other, and absolutely beautiful. Ready? Garrison asked. She took his hand, threading their fingers as one. With you? Yes. They stepped through the airlock. The docking bay was standard industrial design, all function, no aesthetics. A young technician stood by the controls, running through post-docking protocols. He looked up as they emerged. His eyes went wide. His hand moved toward the emergency alarm. Stand down, Garrison said. The command came out with 40 years of military authority behind it. She's with me. The technician's hand froze. His gaze darted between Garrison's weathered face and Zara's alien features. Sir, I need to report. Report to Station Commander Reynolds that Major Garrison Thorne has arrived with a guest requiring medical assistance. Garrison's voice stayed level, professional. Tell her it's urgent. And tell her I'm calling in every favor she owes me from our service days. Something in his tone must have convinced the technician. The young man nodded jerkily and hurried toward the communications panel. Zara watched him go. Your reputation precedes you. 4 decades leaves a lot of people who remember you. Garrison led her toward the bay exit. Reynolds and I served in the Gulf. She was a field surgeon. Best I ever worked with. If anyone can help, it's her. They made it 3 corridors into the station before the stairs started. People saw Zara and stopped. Some backed away. Some reached for communicators. One woman actually screamed before her companion pulled her into a side passage. Zara's hand tightened on Garrison's. Her shoulders drew back, chin lifting. The warrior's pride asserting itself despite the fear he could feel trembling through her fingers. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "They don't know you. They know what I am. They know what they think you are. There's a difference." They reached the medical level. The doors opened to reveal a woman in her mid-50s waiting for them. Gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. Sharp eyes that had seen too many surgeries to be easily shocked. Dara. Evelyn Whitfield wore the insignia of the station's chief medical officer on her crisp uniform. She looked at Zara, took in the horns, the crimson eyes, the markings covering every inch of visible skin. Then she looked at Garrison. "When you call in favors, Thorne, you don't do it halfway." "Eve," relief flooded through him. "Thanks for seeing us. You said it was urgent, and you've never lied to me." Her gaze returned to Zara, clinical assessment replacing initial shock. "Come, Medical Bay 3. It's shielded in private." She led them through sterile white corridors. Medical staff stopped to stare. Whispers followed in their wake, but Evelyn's presence kept them moving without incident. The medical bay was larger than the one on Garrison's ship. Proper equipment, full diagnostic suite. Evelyn sealed the door behind them and gestured Zara toward the examination table. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Garrison watched as Evelyn ran her scans. Watched her expression shift from professional curiosity to genuine fascination as the data populated her displays. "Remarkable," she breathed. "The integration is complete. I've never seen anything like this." "Can you help her?" Garrison asked. Evelyn looked up. "Help her do what?" "The organism is stable. Her vitals are strong. If anything, she's healthier than baseline Cathari parameters would suggest." She pulled up comparative data. "Whatever this symbiote is doing, it's not killing her. It's enhancing her." "It wasn't stable," Zara said quietly. "Not until him." She explained. The centuries of isolation, the progressive spread of the markings, the berserker state when it took full control, and what happened when Garrison entered her life. Evelyn listened. Her expression grew more thoughtful with each detail. When Zara finished, the doctor turned to Garrison. "You're saying physical and emotional bonding with you stabilizes her condition?" "The data supports it." He pulled up the scans from his ship, showing the before and after readings. Evelyn studied them in silence. Then she looked at Zara with something that might have been sympathy. "Your people tried to fight this through isolation?" "It was the only way we knew." Zara's voice carried the weight of watching it fail over and over. Emotional suppression slowed the progression. But isolation also meant starvation. No connection, no warmth, nothing but slow existence, which gave the symbiote nothing to balance against except survival hormones. Evelyn nodded slowly. So it kept searching, kept spreading, looking for the neurochemical inputs it needed to achieve homeostasis. She turned to her console, fingers flying across the controls. Human biochemistry during bonding produces oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. Cathari physiology lacks the receptors for most of those, but the symbiote might have evolved them, adapted to seek those specific compounds. "Can you confirm that?" Garrison asked. "Give me a few hours." Evelyn looked at Zara. "I'll need tissue samples, blood work, full neurological mapping." "Is that acceptable?" Zara glanced at Garrison. He nodded. She turned back to Evelyn. "Yes." "Good." The doctor's expression softened slightly. "I've spent 30 years in military medicine, Guardian. Seen a lot of things that scared me. You are not one of them. You're a patient, and I'm going to figure out how to help you." Something eased in Zara's posture. The first genuine relaxation Garrison had seen since they left the tomb. The testing took hours. Evelyn was thorough, professional. She asked questions with the same clinical detachment she'd use on any patient. Never flinched from Zara's appearance. Never treated her as anything other than someone seeking help. Garrison stayed close, held Zara's hand during the more invasive procedures, watched the data accumulate on the displays. Finally, Evelyn sat back. "Preliminary results confirm your theory. The symbiote has developed receptors for human bonding, neurochemicals. When you two are in physical contact, especially during emotional intimacy, Garrison's biochemistry literally feeds the organism what it needs to maintain equilibrium." "So what happens if they're separated?" The question came from the doorway. They all turned. A man in station commander's uniform stood there. Older than Garrison. Hard face. Military bearing that had never softened despite years in civilian service. "Commander Reynolds," Evelyn said, "this is a private medical consultation. Nothing is private when you bring an alien with a weaponizable organism onto my station, Doctor." Reynolds stepped inside, the door sealing behind him, his gaze fixed on Zara. "I've been getting reports. People are scared. Governments are making inquiries. And 3 corporations have already filed claims stating they have legal rights to her." "She's not property," Garrison said flatly. "Tell that to Apex Corporation's lawyers." Reynolds pulled up a holographic display. Legal documents scrolled past. "They're claiming she was discovered on a planet under their contracted survey rights. That makes her a salvage asset." Zara's hand tightened on Garrison's. He felt her start to pull away, to distance herself to protect him. He didn't let go. "She's a person," he said. "Not an asset, not salvage, a living sentient being with rights under interstellar law." "That law applies to recognized species," Reynolds countered. "The Cathari are extinct. She's the last of her kind. There's no government to advocate for her, no legal standing to claim personhood." "Then I'm claiming it for her." Garrison stood, still holding Zara's hand. "She's under my protection, and if Apex wants her, they'll have to go through me." Reynolds studied him for a long moment. "You'd stake your reputation on an alien you've known for less than 24 hours? "Yes." The single word carried absolute conviction. Reynolds sighed, looked at Evelyn. "Your medical opinion, is she dangerous?" "No more than any enhanced soldier." Evelyn gestured to the data. "Her condition is stable. She's in full control of her faculties. And she's seeking help, not causing harm. And if she loses that stability?" "Then I'm here," Garrison said. "I can bring her back. I've done it twice already." Reynolds was quiet. Then he turned to Zara. "What do you want?" The question seemed to surprise her. She blinked, crimson eyes flickering. "I want to live, not just survive, actually live." "And you think you can do that with him?" Reynolds nodded toward Garrison. Zara looked at Garrison. Something soft crossed her face. "He's the first person in centuries who didn't run from me. The first one who made me feel human again, even though I'm not." Her voice dropped. "Yes, I think I can live with him." Reynolds studied them both. Garrison recognized the look. The commander weighing risks against potential benefits, making the kind of decision that could end careers or save lives. Finally, Reynolds nodded. 48 hours. You get 48 hours to prove her condition is stable and document the treatment protocol. After that, I'll need something I can show the governments and corporations demanding answers." "Agreed," Garrison said. "And Thorne?" Reynolds paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I hope you're right about her. We could use something good in this sector, something that shows different species can coexist." Then he was gone. Evelyn let out a breath. "Well, that went better than expected." "He could still change his mind," Zara said quietly. "He won't." Garrison squeezed her hand. "Reynolds is a lot of things, but once he gives his word, he keeps it. We have 48 hours. We'll make them count." "What do you need from us?" Zara asked Evelyn. The doctor pulled up a new display. "I need to document the bonding effect. Measure exactly what happens to your physiology during physical and emotional contact with Garrison. If we can prove the relationship is therapeutic, not just romantic, we can make a medical case for keeping you united." "Therapeutic," Zara repeated. Her mouth curved slightly. "Is that what we're calling it?" Garrison felt his own lips twitch. "Would you prefer romantic?" "I'd prefer both." She looked at him, and despite everything, the danger, the corporate threats, the uncertain future, she smiled. "I've spent centuries with neither. I'll take as much of both as I can get." Evelyn cleared her throat. "If you two are done being adorable, we have work to do. Garrison, I'll need you to stay close to her. Monitor her vitals continuously. I want to map exactly what triggers stabilization versus what triggers progression." "Understood." "Good." Evelyn headed for the door. "I'm assigning you quarters in the medical wing. Private, monitored. You'll have everything you need. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start comprehensive testing." She paused, looking back at them. "And Guardian, welcome to Fort Braxton Station. Try not to let the staring get to you. Scientists are curious by nature. Once they realize you're not here to eat them, they'll settle down. Then she was gone, leaving Garrison and Zara alone in the medical bay. Zara slid off the examination table, moved to the viewport that looked out on the gas giant below. The massive planet swirled with storms that had raged for millennia, beautiful and terrible and utterly indifferent to the small lives playing out in orbit above it. Over 200 years, she said softly, and in one day, everything changes. Garrison moved to stand behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. Scared? Terrified. She leaned back against him, but also, say, hopeful, which might be worse. Why worse? Because hope can be taken away. Isolation was safe, predictable. I knew what each day would bring. But this? She turned in his arms to face him. This could end. You could change your mind. The corporations could win. Something could go wrong and I could lose control and hurt you. He kissed her, cutting off the spiral of fears before it could gain momentum. When he pulled back, he kept his hands on her face. Listen to me. I've spent 40 years in war zones, spent 4 decades watching good people die. I learned a long time ago that nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. His thumbs traced the markings on her cheeks. But I also learned that when you find something worth fighting for, you don't let it go just because it's hard, or dangerous, or uncertain. And I'm worth fighting for? Zara, you're worth everything. She kissed him then, slow and deep and full of unspoken promises. The markings on her skin pulsed once, then settled into calm patterns. The medical monitors showed her vitals stabilizing, the symbiote entering dormancy, all the physiological evidence of exactly what Evelyn needed to document. But in that moment, neither of them cared about data or documentation. They just held each other. Two people from different worlds, different species, different timelines, finding something neither had expected, finding home. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of testing. Evelyn ran every scan, every analysis, every measurement she could think of. She documented Zara's baseline physiology, then documented what happened when Garrison was near, when he touched her, when they were intimate. The data was conclusive. Human bonding neurochemicals triggered specific responses in the symbiote. Oxytocin promoted cellular integration stability. Dopamine regulated the organism's reproductive rate. Serotonin controlled its aggressive expansion patterns. As partners, they created perfect homeostasis. It's remarkable, Evelyn said, reviewing the final results. The symbiote isn't a parasite, it's a true symbiont. It enhances her while she provides the biological environment it needs. But it evolved in isolation, without the neurochemical inputs that would normally come from social bonding. So my people were killing themselves, Zara said quietly, by isolating, by suppressing emotions. We were starving the organism of what it needed to stabilize. You couldn't have known. Evelyn's voice was gentle. Your species didn't produce these compounds naturally. You had no framework for understanding what the symbiote required. But humans do. Yes, Evelyn looked at Garrison, which makes you uniquely suited to help her, possibly the only one who can. What about other humans? Garrison asked. Could someone else provide the same stabilization? Evelyn pulled up comparative neural scans. Theoretically, yes. Any human could produce the necessary compounds. But there's a specificity to the bonding. The symbiote has adapted to your unique biochemical signature. Switching to another human now would require readaptation, destabilization during the transition. So we're bonded, Zara said, permanently. Unless you want to risk regression to unstable state during readaptation. Evelyn paused. Is that a problem? Zara looked at Garrison. He looked back. No, they said in unison. Evelyn smiled. Good, because I'm presenting this data to Commander Reynolds in 2 hours, and I need to know you're both committed to this course of treatment. We are, Garrison confirmed. Then let's make it official. Evelyn pulled up legal documents. I'm recommending you be granted medical dependency status. It's normally used for patients requiring specific donor compatibility, organ transplants, rare blood types, that sort of thing. But it would apply here, Garrison said, seeing where she was going. Exactly. Zara requires regular biochemical input that only you can provide. That makes you medically necessary to her survival, which means any corporation trying to separate you would be committing what amounts to medical negligence. They won't like it, Zara warned. I don't care what they like. Evelyn's expression hardened. I care about my patient's health, and my medical opinion is that separating you two would be detrimental to her condition, possibly fatal. She looked at them both. So, do I have your consent to proceed? Garrison squeezed Zara's hand. Yes. Yes, Zara echoed them. Good. Evelyn Munn initiated the documentation process. Now let's go convince Reynolds to approve this. And then let's make sure the rest of the galaxy knows that the last guardian of the Cathari is under human medical protection. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Thorne, when this is over, you're going to owe me a lot more than the favors I owed you. Worth it, he said. Evelyn smiled. Yes, I rather think it is. 2 hours later, they stood in Commander Reynolds' office. The station commander reviewed Evelyn's data with meticulous attention, read every scan, every analysis, every conclusion. Finally, he looked up. This is your professional and medical opinion, doctor, that they need to remain in partnership? It's not opinion, Commander, it's fact. Evelyn pulled up the neural scans. Separation would cause immediate destabilization, potentially catastrophic regression to berserker state. I can't ethically recommend it. Reynolds turned to Zara. And you consent to this treatment protocol? I consent to living, Zara said, to being more than just a guardian of the dead. If that requires bonding with Garrison Thorne, then yes, I consent. And you? Reynolds looked at Garrison. You understand this is likely permanent? That you're committing to being responsible for her stability indefinitely? Garrison didn't hesitate. I understand, and I accept that responsibility. Reynolds studied them both, then he sighed and initialized the approval process. Medical dependency status granted. Guardian Zara is hereby recognized as a patient under human medical protection. Her treatment protocol requires proximity to Major Garrison Thorne on permanent basis. He looked at them seriously. This doesn't solve all your problems. Apex is still making noise. Other corporations will follow, but it gives you legal standing, protection under medical ethics laws. They'll have a much harder time separating you now. Thank you, Zara said softly. Don't thank me yet. Reynolds pulled up new data, because we've detected something else. A signal, coming from the Epsilon sector. Same energy signature as your tomb on Valthara. Zara's breath caught. Another Cathari site? Possibly, or possibly another Guardian. Reynolds looked at her. Someone like you, someone who might have survived. Garrison felt Zara's hand tighten on his, felt her whole body tense with sudden, desperate hope. When can we leave? She asked. Eager to find your people? Reynolds asked. Eager to make sure no one else spends centuries alone. Zara's voice was firm. If there's even a chance someone survived, I have to treat. Reynolds nodded slowly. Your ship needs repairs. Give us 3 days. We'll get you outfitted properly. Supplies, updated scanners, everything you need. He stood, extending his hand to Garrison. Don't make me regret this, Thorne. Garrison shook it. I won't. As they left the office, Zara was quiet, thoughtful. Garrison could see the wheels turning behind her crimson eyes. What are you thinking? He asked. That I spent over 2 centuries as the last guardian, alone, waiting to die. She looked at him. And now I might not be the last, and I'm definitely not alone, and dying is the last thing on my mind. She smiled, actually smiled, full and genuine and beautiful. I'm thinking about the future, Garrison Thorne, and for the first time in over 2 centuries, I have one. He pulled her close, kissed her temple, felt the markings on her skin pulse once with calm, stable rhythm. We have one, he corrected, as partners. Partners, she agreed. 3 days felt like both an eternity and an instant. Zara spent the time learning what it meant to live among humans, to walk corridors without everyone fleeing, to sit in the station's observation deck and watch people slowly stop staring, to share meals with Garrison in the small quarters they'd been assigned, learning the simple intimacy of everyday existence. It was terrifying and wonderful, and so completely foreign that sometimes she had to remind herself to breathe. The station's scientists approached her cautiously at first. Then, with growing curiosity, they asked questions about Cathari culture, about the symbiote, about what it felt like to be 234 years old. Zara answered them, found herself teaching for the first time in generations, sharing knowledge she'd thought would die with her. One young researcher, barely 20, with eager eyes and endless questions, reminded her of the students she'd trained before the extinction, before everything fell apart. What were the Cathari like, the girl asked, before the symbiote? Zara had to think about it. Such a long span was a long time to remember joy. We were warriors, she said finally, but also artists, engineers, philosophers. We believed in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, in using strength to build rather than destroy. She traced the markings on her arm. The symbiote was supposed to make us better at that, stronger guardians, better protectors. What went wrong? We didn't understand what we were creating. We saw it as a tool, a weapon. We didn't realize it was alive, that it had needs we couldn't meet. Zara looked at the girl. We tried to control it through force, through suppression, and it killed us for it. But you survived. I stopped fighting it, started trying to coexist with it. Zara's hand found Garrison's across the table. He'd been sitting quietly, listening. But coexistence isn't the same as thriving. I needed something I couldn't give myself. The girl's eyes went to their joined hands. Understanding dawned on her young face. Connection. Connection, Zara agreed. Later in their quarters, Garrison found her standing at the viewport, looking out at the stars with an expression he couldn't quite read. Regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About you? Never. She leaned back against him. But I keep thinking about my people. How many of them might have survived if they'd known? If they'd understood that isolation was killing them faster than the symbiote ever could. You couldn't have known either. But I do now, and if there's another guardian out there, someone who's been alone as long as I was, she turned in his arms. I have to find them, Garrison. I have to make sure they know they don't have to die alone. Then we'll find them. He kissed her forehead, as partners. The word had become their anchor, their promise, their future. On the morning of the third day, Evelyn cleared them for departure. The ship had been repaired, upgraded, outfitted with medical monitoring equipment that would let them track Zara's condition in real time. Remember, Evelyn said, running through the final checks, daily scans. If you see any destabilization, you contact me immediately. We will, Garrison promised. Evelyn looked at Zara. Something soft crossed her professional expression. Take care of yourself, Guardian, and take care of him. He's one of the good ones. I know. Zara's hand found Garrison's. I'll protect him with everything I have. I know you will. Evelyn stepped back. Safe travels, and good luck finding your people. Commander Reynolds met them at the docking bay. He handed Garrison a data chip, coordinates for the signal, and letters of introduction to every human outpost in that sector. Won't stop the corporations, but it might slow them down. Thank you, Garrison said. Reynolds turned to Zara. For a moment, the hard military commander softened. My wife died 10 years ago, cancer. I spent those last months watching her fade, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. He paused. What you two have found, the chance to actually help each other, to keep each other alive, that's rare. Don't waste it. Zara inclined her head, a gesture of respect between warriors. I won't. They boarded the ship, went through pre-flight checks, and then they were lifting off, leaving Fort Braxton Station behind. Garrison set course for the Epsilon sector, 3 weeks at maximum speed, 3 weeks alone in the depths of space. Zara should have been nervous, should have worried about the corporations still hunting her, about what they might find at the signal source, about 1,000 possible dangers. Instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in over 2 centuries. Peace. The first week passed in comfortable routine. Garrison taught Zara how to cook human food. She taught him Cathari meditation techniques. They shared stories, his 40 years of military service, her centuries of solitude. She learned that his wife Eleanor had been a teacher, that she died 5 years ago, the same year he retired, that he'd been drifting ever since, taking archaeological contracts because he didn't know what else to do with himself. I thought I'd lost my purpose, he admitted one night as they lay intertwined in the small cabin. Spent 40 years being useful, being needed, and then suddenly I wasn't anymore. And now, Zara asked. He pulled her closer. Now I know I was just waiting, for this, for you. She kissed him, slow and deep, felt the markings on her skin pulse with calm, stable rhythm. The medical monitors showed perfect homeostasis. The symbiote had fully adapted to their bonding, to the regular influx of human neurochemicals, to connection after so long alone. Zara was thriving. The second week brought complications. They were passing through a commercial shipping lane when the proximity alarm screamed. A ship had dropped out of hyperspace directly in their path. Military configuration. Apex Corporation markings. They found us, Zara said quietly. Garrison's jaw tightened. Hold on. He threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, but the Apex vessel matched them move for move. It was larger, faster, purpose-built for interception. The comm crackled. Research vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. Not happening, Garrison muttered. He pushed the engines harder. They'll catch us, Zara said. She was already moving to the weapons console. We need to fight. In a research vessel against a military ship? Do you have a better idea? He didn't. Zara's fingers flew across the controls. Get me close. I can target their engine systems. If we disable their propulsion, they'll board us anyway. They have shuttles. Then we make it costly. Her scarlet eyes blazed. I'm not going back in a cage, Garrison. I'd rather die fighting. He looked at her, saw the absolute determination. The warrior who had survived centuries through sheer willpower. We're not dying, he said, and we're not letting them take you, so let's make them regret finding us. The Apex ship fired, warning shots across their bow. Garrison didn't slow down. Instead, he angled toward a nearby asteroid field. Dense, dangerous. Exactly the kind of terrain a military ship would hesitate to enter. What are you doing? Zara asked. Something risky. He grinned despite the fear. Hold tight. They plunged into the asteroid field. Rocks the size of mountains tumbled through space. Some spinning, some stable. All of them deadly if you hit them wrong. Garrison flew like he was threading a needle, dodging, weaving, using every trick he'd learned in 40 years of flying in hostile territory. Behind them, the Apex ship followed. Larger, less maneuverable. It clipped an asteroid, shields flaring. They're slowing, Zara reported. Good. Garrison spotted what he was looking for, a cluster of asteroids in tight formation. He dove toward them. Garrison, the gap's too narrow. I know. He pushed the engines to maximum. The ship screamed in protest. They shot through the gap with meters to spare. The Apex vessel tried to follow. Didn't make it. Its shields failed. The ship scraped against rock. Atmosphere vented. It began to tumble. Emergency systems screaming. They're disabled, Zara said. Not destroyed. They'll recover. Then we don't waste time. Garrison punched in new coordinates, jumping in 10 seconds. The universe stretched, snapped. They left the asteroid field and the damaged Apex ship far behind. In the safety of hyperspace, Garrison let out a shaking breath. That was too close. Zara moved to stand behind his chair. Her hands settled on his shoulders. You saved us. We saved us. He tilted his head back to look at her. Team effort. She leaned down and kissed him upside down. Team effort, she agreed. But they both knew Apex wouldn't stop, wouldn't give up. The corporation had too much invested in capturing her. The third week brought them to the Epsilon sector. The signal was stronger now, pulsing with the same energy signature as Zara's tomb, growing more intense with each light year they crossed. It's definitely Cathari, Zara said, studying the readings. Her hands trembled slightly. But I don't recognize the pattern. It's not from my house. How many houses were there? 10, each with their own guardians, their own tombs. She looked at him. What if it's not just one survivor? What if there were others who chose isolation like I did? The hope in her voice was almost painful to hear. They dropped out of hyperspace at the signal's coordinates. A planet hung before them, smaller than Valthera, covered in ice and rock. Harsh, inhospitable. The kind of world you'd choose if you wanted to be left alone. Scanning where Garrison said. His instruments swept across the surface. Energy signature is coming from the northern hemisphere. Underground complex, and he paused. Biological readings, faint but present. Zara's breath caught. Someone's alive down there. Could be automated systems. The tombs generated biological signatures from the preservation technology. Or it could be another guardian. She was already moving to the airlock. We have to check. They descended through the thin atmosphere. The surface was as hostile as it looked. Frozen, barren. Nothing lived here naturally, but something had built here. The entrance to the underground complex was hidden in a canyon system. Garrison landed nearby, and they suited up for the harsh environment. Zara led the way. She knew these structures, knew how guardians built their sanctuaries. The entrance opened to her touch, ancient technology recognizing Cathari DNA. Inside, the complex was similar to her tomb. Stone corridors, bioluminescent lighting, the smell of time and solitude. But different, too. The carvings were in a style she didn't recognize. The architecture followed different aesthetic principles. House Meridian, she whispered, tracing symbols on the wall. They were philosophers, teachers. My people traded knowledge with them for generations. They moved deeper, following the energy signature, following the hope that someone had survived. The central chamber opened before them, and Zara stopped dead. Sarcophagi lined the walls, hundreds of them. But in the center, standing among the dead, was a figure. Cathari, female, younger than Zara appeared, perhaps equivalent to late 20s in human terms. Dark hair instead of red, silver eyes instead of crimson, horns that curved backward rather than up, and markings, black patterns covering every visible inch of skin, just like Zara's. The other guardians stared at them, at Zara's Cathari features, at Garrison's human form. Then she did something Zara hadn't expected. She fell to her knees. Guardian of houses, she breathed. I thought I was the last. I thought I was alone. Zara crossed to her, knelt down, took the other woman's cold hands in her own. How long? 193 years. Tears tracked down her marked face. I'm Lyris, last of House Meridian, and I've been so alone. Not anymore. Zara pulled her into an embrace, felt the other woman shake with sobs that had been suppressed for nearly 2 centuries. You're not alone anymore. Over Lyris's shoulder, she met Garrison's eyes, saw understanding there, compassion, and a question. Could human bonding help Lyris too? Or was the connection specific to Zara and Garrison? Only one way to find out. They brought Lyris aboard the ship. She moved like someone in a dream, touching surfaces, staring at Garrison with a mixture of wonder and confusion. A human, she kept saying. You bonded with a human. His biochemistry stabilizes the symbiote, Zara explained. Connection, emotional bonding. It provides what isolation couldn't. Lyris looked at her markings, at the calm, stable patterns, then at her own, which writhed with agitated intensity. But I have no human to bond with. Not yet, Garrison said. But Fort Braxton Station has 300 people, scientists, researchers, good people who would help if they knew. You would take me there? Lyris asked. Trust me among your people? Zara trusts you, he said simply. That's enough for me. The return journey took 3 weeks. In that time, Zara and Lyris shared stories, compared experiences, found the commonalities in their isolation and the differences in how they'd coped. Lyris had been a teacher before the extinction. She showed them holographic recordings she'd preserved, lessons on Cathari philosophy, on ethics, on the responsibility that came with power. I kept teaching, she said quietly, even with no students, even alone. I couldn't stop. It was all I had left of who I was. Zara understood. She'd kept guarding, kept protecting the dead. Because without that purpose, what was she? But now, watching Lyris with Garrison, seeing how the other guardian reacted to human warmth and kindness, Zara began to imagine something new. Not just survival, not just existence, but purpose, real purpose. They arrived at Fort Braxton Station to find Commander Reynolds waiting. Evelyn was with him. Both looked grave. We have a problem, Reynolds said without preamble. Apex Corporation has filed a legal challenge. They're claiming Zara violated their salvage rights by removing Guardian Lyris from a planet under their survey contract. That's insane, Garrison said. Lyris is a person, not salvage. Tell that to their lawyers. Reynolds pulled up documents. They're also claiming Zara's medical dependency status is fraudulent, that we manufactured the data to protect her from legitimate corporate interests. The data is real, Evelyn said firmly. I can prove it. Then you'll need to. Reynolds looked at them all seriously. They filed for an immediate hearing tomorrow. You'll need to present evidence that the bonding is medically necessary and that Lyris has the same condition. She does, Zara said. Her symbiote is unstable. She needs help. Then we test her tonight. Get the documentation we need. Evelyn was already moving. Come on, we have work to do. The testing took all night. Evelyn ran every scan, every analysis, documented Lyris's unstable symbiote activity, then tested her response to human proximity. The results were clear. Human neurochemicals affected her symbiote the same way they affected Zara's. But Lyris had no bonded human, no source for the stabilizing compounds. We'll find someone, Garrison said. Someone compatible, someone willing. Lyris looked at him with those silver eyes. Why would anyone volunteer for that? To be permanently bonded to an alien? To be responsible for keeping me stable? Because some people understand what it means to be needed, Garrison said quietly. To have purpose, to matter to someone. He looked at Zara. It saved my life as much as it saved hers. The hearing convened the next morning. Apex Corporation sent a full legal team, led by a woman in an expensive suit who looked at Zara and Lyris like they were products to be acquired. The Cathari are extinct, she argued. These individuals have no legal standing to claim personhood. They are remnants of a dead civilization, salvaged from contracted survey worlds. Apex Corporation has legal rights to them and any technology they possess. They're living beings, Evelyn countered, sentient, intelligent, capable of making their own decisions. Decisions that include weaponizing themselves? The lawyer pulled up combat footage from Valthara, Zara in berserker mode, slaughtering mercenaries. This footage shows extreme aggression, danger to human populations. They should be contained for study, not allowed to roam freely. Garrison stood. That footage shows a woman defending herself and others from armed attack. She showed restraint. She stopped when I asked her to. That's not a mindless weapon. That's a person in control. A person who requires your specific biochemistry to maintain that control. The lawyer smiled coldly, which makes her dependent, unable to function independently, hardly the basis for personhood. By that logic, no one with a medical condition deserves rights, Evelyn said sharply. Diabetics need insulin. Transplant patients need anti-rejection drugs. Medical dependency doesn't negate personhood. The arguments went back and forth. Legal precedents cited, medical data presented, philosophical debates about what constituted sentience and rights. Through it all, Zara sat quietly, listening to humans debate her right to exist as something other than property. It was Lyris who finally stood. May I speak? She asked. The mediator, a neutral human official, nodded. Proceed. Lyris stepped forward. Her markings writhed with visible agitation, but her voice stayed steady. I am 193 years old. I have spent those years alone, teaching to empty rooms, preserving knowledge no one would hear, waiting to die. She looked at the Apex lawyers. You want to claim me as salvage, as property? Then you claim a corpse. Because without connection, without purpose, I'm already dead. She turned to the room at large. But Guardian Zara showed me there's another way, that I don't have to die alone, that my knowledge, my teaching, my existence can matter. Her voice dropped. I'm not salvage. I'm a person, and I'm asking for the chance to live as one. The room was silent. Then one of the station's scientists stood, a young man Garrison recognized from the engineering department. I volunteer. Everyone turned to stare at him. For the bonding, he clarified. If Guardian Lyris needs a human partner to stabilize her condition, I volunteer. You don't know what you're offering, Lyris said. I know enough. He stepped forward. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm a xenobiology researcher. I've studied the data Dr. Whitfield presented. I understand the commitment. He looked at Lyris. And I've spent the last 3 days listening to you teach, watching your recordings, learning about Cathari philosophy. It's brilliant, important, worth preserving. He stopped in front of her. You need someone to help you live. I need purpose. Seems like we could help each other. Lyra stared at him, then at Zara. Is it really like this? The bonding? Zara took Garrison's hand. It's everything. Terrifying and wonderful and absolutely worth it. Lyris looked back at Marcus. You're certain? I am. She took his hand, tentatively, the first physical contact with another living being in 193 years. Her markings pulsed, darkened, then slowly began to calm. Marcus didn't let go. The mediator watched this exchange, then turned to the apex lawyers. I'm ruling against you. These individuals have demonstrated sentience, autonomy, and the capacity for informed consent. They are persons under interstellar law, not salvage, not property. The lawyer started to protest. The mediator cut her off. Furthermore, I'm granting them asylum status. As the last survivors of an extinct species, they're entitled to protection under preservation protocols. Any attempt to capture, detain, or study them against their will constitutes a violation of sentient rights. He looked at Zara and Lyris. You're free, both of you. Free to live as you choose. Free to bond with whom you choose. Free to be people. Zara felt something break inside her. Over 2 centuries of being the thing to be feared, or coveted, or studied, and now finally being recognized as simply herself, the tears came unexpectedly. Garrison pulled her close, and she buried her face against his shoulder. It's over, he whispered. You're free. We're free, she corrected. But even as the words left her mouth, alarms began to scream throughout the station. Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace, someone shouted. Apex fleet, 12 ships. Military configuration. Reynolds's face went grim. They're not accepting the ruling. Through the viewport, Zara could see them. Warships surrounding the station. Weapons charging. They hadn't come to negotiate. They'd come to take what they wanted by force. The Apex lawyer's communicator buzzed. She answered it, listened, then smiled coldly at Zara. The legal ruling is irrelevant. Apex Corporation exercises its right to retrieve corporate assets by any means necessary. You can't do this, Reynolds said. This is a civilian station, under contract to multiple corporations, including Apex. The lawyer pulled up documents. Clause 47B allows for enforcement actions in cases of asset theft. You're harboring our property. We're taking it back. The lead warship's weapons locked onto the station. You have 1 hour to surrender the Cathari specimens, a voice announced over the station-wide comm, or we will board by force. Garrison moved to stand beside Zara. His hand found hers. We fight. Against 12 warships? Reynolds shook his head. This station has no military capability. We'd be slaughtered. Then we evacuate, Evelyn said. Get everyone to the civilian transports. They'd just hunt us down, Zara said quietly. She looked at the warships, at the overwhelming force arrayed against them, at the humans who had shown her kindness, who had fought for her freedom, who didn't deserve to die because of her. She turned to Garrison. I have to surrender. No, his grip on her hand tightened. We'll find another way. There is no other way. She cupped his face with her free hand. I won't let these people die for me. I won't let you die for me. Zara, I love you, she said, the words she'd been too afraid to speak. And because I love you, I'm choosing this, to protect you, to protect everyone here. Tears tracked down her marked face. It's what guardians do. Garrison's eyes blazed with fury and pain. Don't you dare sacrifice yourself after everything we've been through. What choice do I have? Zara's voice broke. Let them destroy the station? Let them kill everyone here? I can't. I won't. Lyra stepped forward. Then I surrender too. If my sister is going into captivity, she doesn't go alone. Marcus moved to her side. And I go where she goes. As do I, Garrison said firmly. You're not doing this without me, Zara. We're partners. That means we face this side by side. This is insane, Reynolds said. If you all surrender, Apex gets exactly what they want. No, Evelyn interrupted. She was looking at her medical display, at Zara's biometrics, at something that made her eyes widen. Commander, I need to speak with you. Now, privately. Reynolds frowned but followed her to the corner of the room. They spoke in urgent whispers. Garrison watched Reynolds' expression shift from confusion to shock to something that might have been hope. When they returned, Reynolds looked at Zara with new eyes. Dr. Whitfield has a theory, he said slowly, about your bonding, about what happens when human and Cathari biochemistry interact long-term. What kind of theory? Zara asked. Evelyn pulled up biological scans. You've been bonded to Garrison for weeks now. In that time, your symbiote has been absorbing human neurochemicals, adapting to them, evolving with them. She pointed to the specific markers. And in the process, it's been changing. Changing how? The symbiote is producing its own neurochemicals now, mimicking the compounds it receives from Garrison. It's learning to self-regulate. Evelyn's voice grew excited. Do you understand what this means? In a few more weeks, maybe months, you won't need constant human contact to stay stable. You'll be autonomous. Zara stared at the data. But I'd still need Garrison for emotional fulfillment, yes. For love, companionship, connection. But not for survival. Evelyn looked at her seriously. Apex wants you because you're dependent. Because they think they can control you through that dependency. But if you're autonomous, if the symbiote can stabilize itself, then I'm worthless to them, Zara finished. Just another person, not a weapon they can control. Exactly. Reynolds stepped forward. But here's the problem. They don't know this yet, and we need time to prove it. Time you don't have. The comm crackled. 50 minutes remaining. Garrison looked at Zara, at Lyris, at the warships surrounding them. What if we broadcast the data? Show them Zara's becoming autonomous? Prove she's not worth capturing? They won't believe it, Evelyn said. They'll claim we fabricated the results. Without long-term studies, without months of additional data, then we give them months. Zara's voice was quiet but firm. We run, we hide. We keep gathering data while staying ahead of Apex. And when we have enough proof, we release it to every media outlet, every government, every corporation in the galaxy. That could take half a year, Reynolds warned. Maybe longer. You'd be fugitives the entire time. Better fugitives than prisoners. Zara looked at Garrison. Can you do it? 6 months of running, of looking over our shoulders? He smiled. Actually smiled. Sounds like an adventure. You're both insane, Evelyn said, but she was smiling too. I'm coming with you. You'll need a doctor to document the progression. And someone to keep you two from doing anything stupid. I'm going too, Lair said. Marcus nodded beside her. Then we need to move fast. Reynolds was already pulling up star charts. I can create a diversion. Make it look like you're evacuating with the civilian transports while you actually escape in Garrison's research vessel. But once Apex realizes they've been fooled, they'll hunt us across the galaxy, Garrison finished. Let them try. The plan came together quickly. Reynolds would initiate station evacuation protocols. In the chaos, Garrison's ship would slip away, cloaked among the fleeing civilian vessels. As they prepared to board, Zara pulled Reynolds aside. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything, for believing in me, for fighting for me. Don't thank me yet. Reynolds looked grim. Apex won't stop hunting you, ever. You need to understand that. I do. Zara glanced at Garrison, at Lyris, at the small group willing to risk everything for her freedom. But I also understand that some things are worth running for, worth fighting for. Then run well, Guardian. Reynolds clasped her shoulder. And when you're ready to stop running, when you have the proof you need, come back. Fort Braxton will always have a place for you. The evacuation began with blaring alarms and panicked announcements. Civilian transports launched in all directions. Apex ships moved to intercept and scan them. In the confusion, Garrison's research vessel slipped away. Unnoticed, unremarkable, just another small ship fleeing the danger. They jumped to hyperspace as the first Apex boarding shuttles reached the station. And they were gone. 6 months. That was the promise. 6 months of running, of hiding, of gathering the data they needed to prove Zara's autonomy. 6 months turned into an odyssey. They jumped from system to system, never staying anywhere longer than a week. Evelyn documented every change in Zara's symbiote, watched it learn, adapt, evolve. The markings began to change. The black patterns became more intricate, more beautiful, less like infection and more like art. And slowly, gradually, Zara felt the difference. The desperate need for Garrison's touch lessened. She could go hours, then days, without physical contact and remain stable. The symbiote had learned to produce its own stabilizing compounds. She was becoming autonomous. But autonomy didn't mean she wanted him less. If anything, choosing to be with him rather than needing to be with him made every moment sweeter. Lyris experienced the same transformation. Her bond with Marcus deepened even as her dependency lessened. They found 3 more guardians in those 6 months, hidden across different systems, all alone, all waiting to die, all saved by the knowledge that connection, not isolation, was the answer. By the time they had the data they needed, their small crew of 4 had become a family of 9. 9 Cathari guardians, 9 human partners. 18 people bound by love and purpose. They released the data simultaneously to every major media outlet in human space. The response was immediate. Headlines screamed, "Last of the Cathari found, not weapons, but people." Public opinion shifted overnight. The romantic story of guardians who had survived centuries alone, only to find salvation through human connection, captured imaginations across the galaxy. Apex Corporation's stock plummeted. Governments condemned their actions. The legal claims evaporated in the face of public outrage. When Garrison's ship finally returned to Fort Braxton Station, 7 months after fleeing, they were greeted as heroes. Reynolds met them at the docking bay. "Welcome home." "Home," Zara repeated, testing the word, liking how it felt. In the months that followed, they built something new. A school, a research facility, a place where Cathari culture could be preserved and shared, where guardians could teach, where humans could learn. Zara stood in the teaching hall, looking out at her students, humans and Cathari both, learning from each other, building something neither species could have built alone. Garrison slipped his hand into hers. "Happy?" She turned to him, the man who had walked into her tomb and refused to run, who had shown her that isolation wasn't survival, who had taught her how to live. "More than I ever thought possible," she said. That night in their quarters, Zara stood at the viewport, looking out at the stars, at the vast universe that had once seemed so empty. Garrison wrapped his arms around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" "I was the last guardian," she said softly. "For over 200 years, that's all I was. The last of my people, alone with my dead, waiting to join them." She turned in his arms. "But I'm not the last anymore. And I'm not alone, and instead of guarding the dead, I'm teaching the living." Her hands came up to frame his face. "You gave me more than stability, Garrison Thorne. More than survival. You gave me a future. You gave me purpose. You gave me life." "We gave each other life," he corrected. "Yes," she smiled. "We did." They stood together, looking out at the future they were building, a future where Cathari and humans worked as partners, where isolation gave way to connection, where 2 species found strength in unity. Somewhere in the galaxy there might be other guardians still waiting, still alone, still fighting their own private wars against the symbiote. But Zara would find them, all of them, and she would show them what she had learned. That survival wasn't enough. That connection was everything. That love could bridge any divide. She was no longer the last guardian of a dead civilization. She was the first teacher of a new one, and she was no longer alone.